The scream cut through the afternoon air like a blade, sharp and desperate, echoing off the concrete walls of the public pool, where Maya Rodriguez had been cleaning the locker rooms for the past 3 hours. She dropped her mop, the dirty water sloshing across the floor as she ran toward the sound, her worn sneakers slipping on the wet tiles. The pool deck was chaos, parents shouting, children crying, and in the center of it all, a small girl floating face down in the deep end, her pink swimsuit a stark contrast against the chlorinated blue. Maya didn't hesitate. She dove in fully clothed, her uniform soaking through as she pulled the unconscious child to the surface, her own heart hammering against her ribs as she began CPR on the pool deck. If you've ever wondered whether one moment of courage can change 2 lives forever, stay with me, because what happened next will restore your faith in the power of human connection across every barrier that divides us. The girl couldn't have been more than 7, with dark curls plastered to her scalp and skin that had taken on a frightening blue tinge around her lips. Maya positioned her hands on the small chest, counting compressions the way she had learned in the free first aid class at the community center, the instructor's voice echoing in her memory as she fought to stay calm. "Come on, baby, come on," she whispered between rescue breaths, aware of the crowd gathering around them, but focused entirely on the child beneath her hands. The seconds stretched like hours until finally, mercifully, the girl coughed up pool water and began to breathe, her eyes fluttering open with confusion and fear. "Mama," the child whispered, and Maya felt tears of relief sting her eyes as she helped the girl sit up, wrapping her in a towel someone had brought over. The paramedics arrived within minutes, their professional calm a stark contrast to the emotional chaos of the scene. And as they loaded the girl onto a stretcher, Maya caught a glimpse of her frightened face, looking back through the ambulance window. Only then did Maya realize she was shivering, her cleaning uniform dripping chlorinated water onto the concrete, her hands shaking from adrenaline and the weight of what had just happened. "You saved her life!" The voice belonged to Mrs. Patterson, the pool manager, a woman who had never spoken to Maya with anything approaching warmth in the 6 months she had worked there. "I saw the whole thing. She was under for at least 2 minutes before you got to her. If you hadn't been here—" She trailed off, shaking her head. Maya nodded, still processing the reality of what had occurred, still seeing that small face in her mind, still feeling the fragile ribs beneath her palms as she had fought to bring life back to a child she had never met. The rest of her shift passed in a blur of concerned questions from other staff members and the occasional pat on the shoulder from pool patrons who had witnessed the rescue. Maya finished her cleaning duties with mechanical precision, her mind replaying the incident over and over, wondering about the little girl, hoping she was okay, trying not to think about what might have happened if she had been in a different part of the building when the accident occurred. By the time she clocked out at 6, the pool had returned to its normal rhythm of splashing children and chattering parents, as if nothing extraordinary had happened at all. Maya's bus ride home took her through 3 different neighborhoods, each one a step down the economic ladder from the affluent area where the community center and pool were located. She pressed her face against the window, watching expensive houses give way to modest apartments, which in turn gave way to the subsidized housing complex where she lived with her mother and younger brother. The building was a monument to good intentions and insufficient funding, its beige walls and narrow hallways designed to house the poor with maximum efficiency and minimum dignity. Maya climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, her wet clothes finally beginning to dry, leaving salt stains on the fabric that would probably never come out. "Mia, you're late. What happened to your uniform?" Her mother, Carmen, looked up from the kitchen table where she was helping 8-year-old Diego with his homework, her tired eyes taking in Maya's disheveled appearance with the practiced concern of someone who had learned to expect trouble. Carmen worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night and stocking shelves at a grocery store during the day, and the lines around her eyes spoke of years of worry and insufficient sleep. "I had to help someone at the pool. A little girl almost drowned." Maya's voice was steady, but Carmen knew her daughter well enough to hear the emotion beneath the calm exterior. She stood up, crossing the small kitchen in 3 steps to pull Maya into a hug that smelled of industrial cleaning products and the vanilla lotion she used to try to soften hands that were constantly exposed to harsh chemicals. "Are you okay? Is she okay?" Carmen's questions came rapid fire, her maternal instincts activated by the thought of a child in danger, her own protective impulses extending automatically to any child who might need help. "She's alive. The paramedics took her to the hospital. I don't know anything else." Maya sank into one of the mismatched chairs around their small table, suddenly exhausted by the weight of the day, by the adrenaline crash that was finally hitting her, by the strange emptiness that came from saving someone's life and then watching them disappear into an ambulance, possibly forever. Diego looked up from his math worksheet, his dark eyes serious beyond his years. "You're a hero, Maya, like in the movies." His simple declaration carried more weight than any official recognition could have, and Maya felt something warm settle in her chest, a small pride that helped balance the anxiety and uncertainty of not knowing what had happened to the girl she had pulled from the water. That night, Maya lay in the bed she shared with her mother in their 1-bedroom apartment, listening to the sounds of the building settling around them, the muffled conversations through thin walls, the distant hum of traffic on the highway that ran past their complex. She thought about the little girl, wondered if she was sleeping peacefully in a hospital bed or at home in her own room, surrounded by toys and books and all the security that money could provide. Maya had grown up knowing that the world was divided into those who had and those who had not. But today had been the first time she had literally held someone's life in her hands, someone from the other side of that divide. The knock on their door came 3 days later, on a Saturday morning when Maya was helping her mother fold laundry in the building's communal laundry room. Diego ran up to them, breathless with excitement, his words tumbling over each other in his haste to deliver the news. "Maya, there's a man at our door. He's wearing a really nice suit and he has a fancy car and he's asking for you." Carmen and Maya exchanged glances, both immediately thinking of immigration officers or debt collectors, the kind of official visitors who brought nothing but trouble to families like theirs. They climbed the stairs together, Carmen's protective instincts on high alert, Maya's heart racing with a mixture of curiosity and dread. The man standing outside their apartment door was indeed wearing an expensive suit, charcoal grey with a subtle pinstripe that probably cost more than Maya made in 3 months. He was tall and well-built, with greying temples and the kind of confident bearing that came from never having to worry about money. But what struck Maya most was his eyes, which held a depth of emotion that seemed barely contained beneath his polished exterior. "Ulchi, are you Maya Rodriguez?" His voice was deep and carefully controlled, with the educated accent of someone who had attended the best schools and moved in the highest circles. When Maya nodded, he extended his hand, his grip firm but gentle. "My name is Marcus Thompson. I believe you saved my daughter's life 3 days ago." The words hit Maya like a physical blow, and she felt her knees weaken as the reality of the situation sank in. This was the father of the little girl she had pulled from the pool, the child whose face had haunted her dreams for 3 nights running. "Is she okay? Please tell me she's okay." The words came out in a rush, all of Maya's carefully maintained composure cracking under the weight of 3 days of worry and uncertainty. Marcus's expression softened, and for a moment the successful businessman disappeared, replaced by a father who understood exactly what Maya had been going through. "She's perfect, thanks to you. Sophia is home, she's healthy, and she keeps asking about the angel who saved her life." His voice broke slightly on the last words, and Maya could see him struggling to maintain his composure. "The doctors said if you hadn't acted when you did, if you hadn't known CPR, we would have lost her. There's no way to repay something like that, but I had to come here to thank you in person." Carmen stepped forward, her maternal instincts overriding her intimidation at Marcus's obvious wealth and status. "Please, come in. It's not much, but you're welcome in our home." Maya watched her mother's face, seeing the pride there, the recognition that her daughter had done something extraordinary, something that transcended the boundaries of class and circumstance that usually kept their worlds separate. Marcus hesitated for a moment, clearly aware that his presence might be overwhelming in the small space. But Maya could see that he genuinely wanted to accept the invitation, that his gratitude was real and profound. He followed them into the apartment, his expensive shoes silent on the worn carpet, his eyes taking in the modest furnishings without judgment, only with the careful attention of someone trying to understand a world very different from his own. "This is my mother, Carmen, and my brother, Diego." Maya's introductions were simple, but Marcus treated each family member with the same respectful attention he might have given to business associates or social equals, shaking Diego's hand solemnly and addressing Carmen with genuine warmth. "Mrs. Rodriguez, you've raised an extraordinary daughter." What Maya did took not just courage, but skill and presence of mind that most adults would struggle to maintain in a crisis. Marcus's words were clearly heartfelt, and Maya could see her mother's posture straighten with pride. The recognition from this successful man meaning more than any official award could have. They sat around the small kitchen table, Marcus looking slightly out of place, but making an obvious effort to be comfortable, to bridge the gap between his world and theirs through the simple act of sharing space and conversation. Maya found herself studying his face, looking for traces of the little girl she had saved, seeing Sophia's eyes in his features, understanding now where the child's natural confidence had come from. "I need to ask you something," Marcus said, his tone becoming more serious. "The pool manager told me you work there as a cleaner, that you're not a lifeguard or trained rescue personnel. Where did you learn CPR?" The question was clearly important to him, and Maya could sense that her answer might determine something significant, though she couldn't guess what. "There's a community center near here that offers free classes, first aid, CPR, basic life support. I took them last year because I thought they might help me get a better job someday. Maybe work as a home health aide or something like that." Maya's answer was honest but understated, not mentioning the hours she had spent practicing on the training dummy, the way she had studied the manual until she had memorized every step, the determination that had driven her to master skills that might help her climb out of the economic trap that had claimed so many people in her neighborhood. Marcus nodded slowly, and Maya could see him processing this information, understanding perhaps for the first time the kind of forward-thinking determination it took to invest time and energy in training that might never be used, that offered no immediate return but represented hope for a better future. "You probably saved other lives too, just by being prepared. Most people wouldn't have known what to do." The conversation continued for nearly an hour, ranging from Sophia's recovery to Maya's plans for the future, from the challenges facing their community to Marcus's own journey from a working-class childhood to business success. Maya found herself opening up in ways she rarely did with strangers, sharing her dreams of becoming a nurse, her frustration with the limited opportunities available to someone in her circumstances, her determination to create a better life for herself and her family, despite the obstacles that seemed to multiply with each step forward. When Marcus finally stood to leave, he reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope, placing it on the table with careful deliberation. "This is just a small token of my gratitude. I know it can't really express what your courage meant to my family, but I hope it helps in some way." Maya stared at the envelope, afraid to touch it, afraid to hope that it might contain enough to make a real difference in their lives. "Mr. Thompson, you don't need to," Maya began, but Marcus held up a hand, his expression gentle but firm. "Please, let me do this. You gave me back my daughter. This is the least I can do." He paused at the door, turning back to face the family that had welcomed him into their modest home with such grace and dignity. "Maya, I meant what I said about your plans to become a nurse. If you're serious about that, I'd like to help. I know people at the nursing school, people who understand that talent and determination matter more than financial background. Would you be willing to let me make some calls?" Maya felt her heart stop, then start again at double speed. The nursing program at the local college was competitive and expensive, requiring prerequisites she couldn't afford and connections she didn't have. The possibility that someone like Marcus Thompson might be able to open doors that had seemed permanently closed was almost too overwhelming to contemplate. "I would be honored," she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. After Marcus left, the Rodriguez family sat in stunned silence around their kitchen table, the envelope unopened between them like a promise of possibilities they had never dared to imagine. When Maya finally found the courage to open it, the check inside was for an amount that represented more money than their family had ever seen at one time, enough to pay off their debts, cover Diego's school expenses, and give them a financial cushion that would allow Maya to pursue her education without the constant pressure of immediate survival. But more than the money, more than the promise of help with nursing school, what stayed with Maya was the memory of Marcus Thompson sitting at their table, treating them not as charity cases but as equals, recognizing her heroism not as a fluke but as the natural result of preparation meeting opportunity, of character revealing itself under pressure. For the first time in her life, Maya began to believe that the barriers between worlds might be more permeable than she had thought, that courage and kindness could create bridges across any divide. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind of phone calls and meetings, as Marcus proved true to his word about helping Maya navigate the complex process of applying to nursing school. He introduced her to Dr. Sarah Chen, the dean of the nursing program, who was impressed not just by Maya's test scores and recommendations, but by her real-world experience and obvious dedication to helping others. The scholarship Marcus arranged covered not just tuition, but living expenses, books, and even a small stipend that would allow Maya to focus on her studies without the constant pressure of working multiple jobs to survive. But perhaps the most unexpected development was the friendship that began to develop between the Rodriguez and Thompson families. Marcus brought Sophia to visit, and the little girl's joy at seeing Maya again was infectious. Her chatter about school and friends, and her plans to learn to swim properly filling the small apartment with laughter and energy. Maya found herself becoming something like a big sister to Sophia, helping with homework, sharing stories about her own childhood, bridging the gap between their very different worlds through the simple act of caring. "You know," Marcus said one evening as they watched Sophia and Diego work on a science project together at the kitchen table, "I used to think that success meant building walls high enough to protect my family from the world. But watching Sophia with you and Diego, seeing how much joy she gets from this friendship, I'm starting to think maybe success means building bridges instead." Maya looked at him. This man who had everything money could buy, but had found something priceless in their modest home, something that couldn't be purchased or earned, but only given freely between people who chose to see each other's humanity despite their different circumstances. "Maybe that's what heroes really do," she said quietly. "Not just save people from drowning, but help them find ways to swim." The graduation ceremony took place on a warm spring morning 2 years later, in the same community center where Maya had first learned CPR. She walked across the makeshift stage in her white nursing uniform, accepting her degree from Dr. Chen while her family cheered from the audience. But what made the moment truly special was seeing Marcus and Sophia in the front row, applauding as enthusiastically as if Maya were their own daughter, their presence a testament to the bonds that had grown from a single moment of courage into something that would last a lifetime. After the ceremony, as families gathered for photos and celebrations, Maya found herself standing with Marcus and Sophia beside the community pool where everything had begun. The water was calm now, reflecting the afternoon sunlight like a mirror, giving no hint of the drama that had unfolded there years earlier. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't been there that day?" Marcus asked, his voice thoughtful as he watched Sophia, now a confident swimmer, demonstrate her improved technique for Diego. Maya considered the question, thinking about all the ways their lives had changed, all the opportunities that had opened up, all the connections that had been forged from that single moment of crisis. "I think about what would have happened if I hadn't been prepared," she said finally. "If I hadn't taken those classes, if I hadn't believed that knowledge could change everything. Maybe the real miracle wasn't that I was there, but that I was ready." Marcus nodded, understanding the deeper truth in her words, the recognition that heroism wasn't about being in the right place at the right time, but about preparing yourself to be useful when the moment came, about investing in skills and knowledge and character that might never be needed, but would be invaluable if they were. Yet Sophia wants to be a nurse now, you know. She says she wants to save people like you saved her. "Then I guess the circle keeps going," Maya replied, watching as Sophia helped Diego perfect his backstroke, the two children working together with the easy cooperation of siblings, their friendship a living bridge between worlds that had once seemed impossibly far apart. As the sun began to set over the community center, casting long shadows across the pool deck where Maya had once knelt over an unconscious child, she reflected on the journey that had brought them all to this moment. The scared girl, who had dropped her mop and dove into the water without hesitation, had grown into a confident young nurse, ready to begin her career helping others. The grieving father who had knocked on a stranger's door had found a second family that enriched his life in ways money never could. And the little girl who had nearly drowned had learned not just to swim, but to see beyond the boundaries that society tried to impose, to recognize that heroism could come from anywhere and that the most important connections were often the most unexpected ones. What would you have done in that moment, faced with a choice between safety and action, between staying in your lane and risking everything to help a stranger? Tell me in the comments, because these moments of moral clarity define not just who we are, but who we choose to become. The Rodriguez family still lived in the same apartment complex, but now it was by choice rather than necessity, Maya having decided to stay in the community where she had grown up so she could give back to the people who had shaped her. She worked at the local hospital, specializing in emergency medicine, and taught CPR classes at the community center on weekends, passing on the skills that had changed her life to anyone willing to learn. Marcus had established a scholarship fund in Maya's name, providing opportunities for other young people from underserved communities to pursue careers in healthcare, ensuring that the circle of giving would continue long after all of them were gone. If this story has reminded you that heroism lives in all of us, waiting for the moment when we choose courage over comfort, action over apathy, then share it with someone who needs to remember their own capacity for extraordinary things. Because somewhere today, someone is drowning and someone else is deciding whether to dive in, and that decision will change both of their lives forever.